In the first few weeks of good weather this spring, several weeks into the pandemic lockdown, we noticed a renaissance of a classic art form, the chalk drawing. Many children live on our street, and several of them were spending lots of time drawing on the sidewalk and even out in the middle of the road. One young boy in particular had filled up a very large area in front of his house with delightful chalk drawings of imaginary superheroes. When asked about this from a safe distance, he was happy to tell us about each particular hero figure and to say proudly, "I'm a very good artist." And indeed, he is. There were so many good things about his art creation, quite apart from his considerable skill. He was cheering up the people going by. He was finding joy and adventure in his own imagination. And he was also expressing, it seems to me, faith in his own ability, perhaps the ability of all of us, to get through this difficult time. He was quite literally drawing on his inner superhero, and in doing so, saving us. On the one hand, it was only play. On the other hand, it was profound wisdom. In recent months, many of us have found solace and strength in creative activity, whether it be drawing or journaling, poetry writing, songwriting, playing the ukulele, painting, needlepoint, carpentry. The list goes on and on and on. If you're already engaged in one or more of these activities, I do hope you keep it up. And if you're not, I encourage you to consider giving it a try. Especially in times of stress, creative expression is powerful medicine. It can help us get through our days, enable us to connect with others, and nurture all aspects of our growth. In a very real sense, as we create art, art creates us. The late novelist Kurt Vonnegut put it well when he urged a group of high school students to practice any art, no matter how well or badly, not to get money or fame, but to experience becoming, to find out what's inside you, to make your soul grow. In 2016, an article appeared in Business Insider magazine entitled 7 Science-Based Reasons Why You Should Make Art, Even If You're Bad at It. It seems to me the reasons are even stronger now that we are in this particular situation. Researchers found that after just 45 minutes of art making, levels of cortisol, the stress hormone, were reduced. Additional studies showed that even free-form painting with no particular goal reduced stress in college students, and that art classes benefited people who were caring for ailing loved ones. Research cited in the article also found that creative work provides a healthy distraction from sadness, improves connections in the brain, and sometimes even allows us to work through problems by turning them into narratives. Those are just a few of the many benefits. It's also known that creative work can help us find a state of what's called flow, that sense of full immersion or engagement in life. We can find this in many experiences, including exercise and sports, making love, or losing ourselves in nature. Creative activity is another way to bring about that state of being. And it doesn't even have to involve a grand gesture. In recent years, adult coloring books have become extremely popular. Many people are finding them now a very calming way to pass the time. Looking through one of these coloring books recently, I was immediately struck by the presence of mandalas. Mandalas, of course, are circular geometric patterns used for contemplation in many faith traditions, including Buddhism and Hinduism. The fact that these mandalas are turning up at Shoppers Drug Mart really doesn't matter. They can be found in Shoppers Drug Mart or in a more, what we might think of as a more sacred place. Either way, coloring a mandala living with and contemplating a mandala is a way we can engage in contemplation. It invites us to engage with the circles within circles within circles of life. You can find sacred objects everywhere and welcome them into your life for the healing and solace they provide. And indeed, art making can be practiced with any everyday materials, whether they be stones on the beach, an ordinary pen and notebook, an arrangement of flowers, a meal presented on a plate, an image of the sky captured on your iPhone. What's important is the attitude of wonder, the attitude of awe and playfulness that we bring to the experience, not so much the finished product that we may create. In our culture, we unfortunately have been distracted and misled by an overemphasis on product and market value. This consumer orientation to art discourages the artist within each of us as we evaluate our work based on the demands of the market rather than the needs of the soul. Yet even living in this culture, as we do, and whether or not we choose to share our work, we can always tap into the creative process for the wellspring of awe and wonder that it brings to us. This sense of wonder is, for many people, deeply connected to the spiritual life. So it was with the late Ojibwe writer Richard Wagamis. Each passage in his beautiful book, Embers, was written after a time of morning prayer and traditional ritual. He wrote, "You stoke the fires of creativity with humility, gratitude, and awareness. You need to ask for the gift to be directed. Writing is a spiritual process. To be a creator, you need to connect with Creator." And in this brief passage, he describes the feeling of awe and wonder that is the birthplace of creativity. The scrim of cloud beyond the lake is purple, moving into pearl gray, and I feel drawn to music, poetry, and a quiet idle by the fire. Writing begins there, where the spirit moves and I'm working even when I'm not. Where the spirit moves and I'm working even when I'm not. This seems to me to affirm that creativity is connected to something beyond or beneath our conscious awareness, something moving in us that we are called to bring forth. This is in keeping with the Jungian perspective, which sees creativity as arising from the unconscious, allowing us to make connections that transcend our judging and dividing minds. As creativity is connected to this deep well of spirit or soul, it can bring us unexpected gifts of healing and insight. Many years ago, when I was struggling as a young wife and mother, I was painting with a skilled therapist, creating what I thought were completely abstract watercolor shapes in an almost dreamlike way. When I put down my paintbrush, I saw to my utter surprise that I had unconsciously created a radiant picture of a family with 2 children. The picture revealed something that was deeply important to me, perhaps more important at that time than I even knew consciously. Even now, I find that a song or a drawing can express something that I hadn't yet articulated for myself. When you experiment with creativity, you might ask yourself, what is this picture, arrangement of stones, woodworking project teaching me? What images or symbols are emerging? Am I longing for balance, freedom, simplicity, intensity, softness, sweetness, or something else? Every quality of life can be revealed through our creative selves, offering insight that can guide us during complex times. If your spiritual understanding includes a higher power, God, Creator, true self, you might imagine that source of wisdom speaking to you through your medium. If you hold a more humanist understanding, you might reflect instead on the cognitive benefits or psychological benefits of creative play. Either way, you will experience those benefits. Sometimes we might incorrectly think that art must arise only from the appreciation of beauty and harmony in the world, or that the work we create must always be beautiful or pleasing. But that doesn't reflect the world in which we live. When we open ourselves to wonder, taking in what is around us in all its particularity, we may not see balance and justice and peace everywhere. In fact, these days we are likely to see quite the opposite. So how can we make art out of that? One of my favorite sayings from the Sufi tradition is something I keep on my desk. You are sharing in the totality of cosmic pain. You are called upon to meet it in joy rather than self-pity. The secret is to offer your heart as a vehicle to transform cosmic suffering into joy. The way I understand this is that by simply being attentive to the world as it is, by opening our heart to it all, and then engaging with it creatively, we hold it in a form of loving embrace that is larger than we are, and that is healing. I've spoken in the past to you about the Australian cartoonist Michael Leunig. He started out as a political cartoonist and continues to create art that offers commentary on the world's situation. In recent months, I've noticed a distinct darkening of his outlook. Known for works of childlike winsomeness, he now shares with us his evidently deep sadness at the state of the world. Great art often bears witness to tragedy and sorrow. And so, if you find your own creativity leaning in this direction, do not be dismayed. In an essay entitled Spirituality, Art, and Innocence, Leunig wrote, "Often in my work and calling, it has seemed to me that there is another being within, another self, perhaps the true self, which is not beholden to this time and this world. An eternal collaborator, helping me to go it alone in making sense of the chaos scattered before me. This true self is not something I rise up to, but rather a state I descend to. A regressive surrender to a deeper, more primal and enchanted place within. A more free and timeless place, a more free and timeless sense through which I feel beauty amidst the unbearable ugliness. A poetic vision in which I see a measure of redemption, healing humor, or a deeper and higher picture of life and death on earth. An inspired, liberating presence, an inspired, liberating perspective, rather, which enables me sometimes to find words and symbols or expressions that may be of value to my fellow creatures as well as to myself. I am talking about the spirit. The spirit gives momentum and ease to the soul's natural genius, and the soul is a great genius." Finally, I'd like to return to the reading that I shared a few minutes ago, the well-known poem by Rumi. It's a very short poem, but there's a great deal in it, starting with that simple, matter-of-fact statement, "Today, like every other day, we wake up empty and frightened." Many of us might be able to relate to that feeling of waking up with a sense of deep need. But I notice that Rumi doesn't say worried and frightened. He says empty. So the question is, how can we be filled? Rumi said, don't open the door to the study and begin reading. Today, 700 years later, we might say, don't turn to email or Facebook, CP24 or CNN. Instead, take down the musical instrument. That is, reach for an instrument of creativity, whether it be a notebook, a paintbrush, a guitar, a garden spade. Any instrument that allows us to tap into the well of creativity the well that springs from our unconscious, from a source that is bigger than our intellect and ego. Let the beauty we love be what we do. Let us become the beauty we seek, become the change we wish to see. Let us bring that change to life on the page, channel our inner superhero and render it in chalk. For after all, there are hundreds of ways to kneel and kiss the ground. It's safe to say that many people, perhaps some of us here today, were not encouraged to understand art making or even prayer in that way. That is, to see creative activity as expressing reverence to God or to life. Some of us might have been taught that to make art was selfish or frivolous or attention-seeking. But understood in the light of spiritual growth, creativity is perhaps the furthest thing from an ego trip. It is instead a connection with something far beyond our own ego concerns, an invitation to engage with the forces that create and uphold life, to borrow a phrase from our Unitarian Universalist sources. It's an invitation to nurture and to grow ourselves into people of courage and maturity, people who can engage more fully and fearlessly in the work of love and justice. Creativity is the kneeling and the kissing of the ground of the earth, and the ground of being. It is the loving that gives us life, that shapes us and renews our spirit even in times of darkness. It is my hope that in the coming days, each of us may find some measure of that life-giving creative love in at least one of those hundreds of ways.